Please like this video and subscribe. I really want to reach my first 1,000 subscribers. Thank you. Before I get into it, here's the practical point of this story. A lot of men don't get broken by one big betrayal. They get worn down by a slow drip of disrespect that gets normalized. Little jokes, little digs, public playful comments that aren't playful. And the trap is you keep trying to be the reasonable guy, the steady guy, the guy who doesn't make a scene. Meanwhile, the rules quietly change. Your effort becomes expected, your boundaries become drama, and your home starts feeling like you're renting space in your own life. This is about spotting that shift early, setting a line in real time, and then backing it up with actions that change access, not speeches. Because if respect isn't real, comfort is just a leash. The night it finally snapped was our party in Tampa. My kitchen was packed. People leaned on the counters like they owned stock in my mortgage. Music was bouncing off the walls. The oven timer kept chirping, and I was moving through it all with a tray of food like I was running a small restaurant out of my own house. I'd actually put in work. Real work. Appetizers laid out right. Meat done the way adults do it, not burned into sadness. Drinks set up. Lights on the patio. Even the playlist, balanced, not some random shuffle that sounds like a breakup in slow motion. Mallory was floating in the middle of it, glass of wine in her hand, hair perfect, laughing with her friends like she'd personally built the house with her bare hands. I came in with a tray, hot, heavy, and I said, "Coming through." She didn't look at me, not even a glance. She angled her body toward her friends like I was the refrigerator humming in the background. And then she said it, loud enough to land. He tries so hard to impress people. It's kind of desperate. Not a private joke, not a wink, a public shot served like entertainment. A couple people laughed on autopilot. You know that laugh, the one that says, "I don't want to be the odd one out." A few others went quiet and stared at their cups like the cups had answers. My hands didn't shake. I didn't spill the tray. I just set it down on the island, slowly, like I was placing down a weapon I wasn't going to use. I looked at her and said, calm enough that everyone heard, "If hospitality is weakness, you can start paying for the house." Silence. Not total. Music still playing, but the room changed. Like somebody turned the oxygen down. Mallory blinked, smile frozen halfway. "Oh my God, Daniel." It was a joke. I didn't move closer fast. I didn't raise my voice. I just held her eyes. "You tried to make me a clown in my own home," I told her. "That doesn't work for me." Her friends looked at each other. One of them did that nervous half-sip thing. Mallory's face tightened. "You're being dramatic," she said, like she was reading off a script. And then Kira, her best friend, the one who usually backed her like a lawyer, stepped in. "Mal," Kira said, and her voice had that warning tone people use with toddlers near a staircase. "You went too far. That was mean." Mallory whipped her head around. "Seriously?" Kira didn't flinch. "Yeah, it wasn't cute. It was nasty." That hit Mallory harder than my words. Because my words she could label sensitive. But Kira was supposed to be her mirror, her backup singer. And here she was cutting the mic. Mallory laughed once, sharp and fake. "Wow, okay, so everyone's just against me now." I picked up a serving spoon, tapped it against the tray, and said, "No one's against you. People are just hearing you." She snapped her eyes back to me. "So you decided to humiliate me in front of everyone." I let that hang for a second, then shrugged like it was simple math. "You humiliated yourself," I replied. I just stopped applauding. Someone near the living room started turning the music down. Not even on purpose. It just happened. Like the house wanted to listen. Mallory opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. "You're doing this right now?" Over one comment. And that's when I said the part I'd been swallowing for years. "It's not one comment," I said. "It's 6 years of you turning me into your punchline. My job, how I talk, what I like, what I do around this house. You've been doing it so long you don't even notice you're doing it." A guy I'd invited from work, Marcus, loud, always joking, shifted his weight and looked away like he felt guilty for being there. Mallory's voice dropped, sharp. "You're insane." I picked up the tray again and moved it to the other side of the island like I was rearranging furniture. "I'm not insane," I said. "I'm awake." And right then, standing in my own kitchen with 20 people pretending not to listen, I had the strangest thought. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have handled that first laugh very differently. People started making excuses within minutes. Early morning, babysitter, long drive. The party didn't end with a bang. It ended with that slow, embarrassed leak where everyone escapes like the building's on fire, but nobody wants to yell fire. Mallory tried to follow me when I stepped out to the patio. "Daniel, come on," she said. "You're making this into a whole thing." I leaned my forearms on the railing and looked out at the dark yard. The pool light was still on, bright blue, calm like it didn't care about anything. I didn't even look back at her. "I'm not making it," I said. "I'm noticing it." She hovered behind me like she was deciding whether to hug me or hit me. "You always do this," she muttered. "You get in your moods and you punish me." I turned just enough to meet her eyes. "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm changing the rules." Her face twitched like that sentence didn't compute. I walked back inside, grabbed a trash bag, and started clearing empty cups. Not because I wanted to clean, because I wanted my hands doing something real while my brain locked onto one clean fact. The marriage I'd been protecting was already gone. I'd just been babysitting the idea of it, and the next morning proved it. The house looked like a lazy disaster movie. Sticky glasses, plates with half-eaten food, a smear of sauce on the counter like someone lost a fight with a chicken wing. Mallory was on the couch in an oversized shirt, scrolling her phone like she'd done hard labor. I didn't lecture. I didn't sigh loudly. I just started cleaning. Bay, wipe, stick, rinse. Practical. Quiet. After 10 minutes, I said, "Help me with the kitchen." She didn't look up. "I hosted," she said. I paused with a wet plate in my hand. "Hosted," I repeated. She finally looked at me, annoyed like I'd interrupted her job. "Yeah, I had to be on all night." Smiling, talking, making sure everyone felt welcome. "That's work." I stared at her for a second, then put the plate down slowly. "So your contribution was showing up?" I said. Her mouth tightened. "Don't do that." "Don't do what?" "Undervalue me," she snapped, like irony was illegal. I wiped my hands on a towel and looked at her like I was looking at a stranger who'd wandered into my house. "Mallory," I said, steady, "you didn't cook. You didn't clean. You didn't lift a finger. And now you're telling me your smiling is equal to my work." She sat up a little. "You love doing that stuff. You act like some martyr." I nodded once, like I'd just received a clear diagnosis. "Good to know," I said, "because that means I can stop doing it without guilt." She rolled her eyes. "Okay, dramatic." I picked up my keys from the counter. "I'm going out," I said. "To where?" "Doesn't matter," I answered. "Kitchen's yours if you want it to be." I left her sitting there with a mess and her phone, and I could feel her confusion chasing me out the door. She wasn't used to consequences arriving without a fight. That evening, I came home with dinner. One container. My comfort food from a local spot, the kind of meal that feels like a reset button. I put on a plate, set one fork, poured myself water, and sat down. Mallory walked into the dining area, looked at the table, and stopped. "That's it?" she asked. I chewed, swallowed. "That's it." Her eyebrows climbed. "You didn't get me anything?" "No." She stared like I'd told her gravity was canceled. "So we're doing separate dinners now? This your little punishment thing?" I set the fork down and looked right at her. "It's not punishment," I said. "It's dinner. I'm done playing I provide. You sneer." She scoffed, but I saw something flicker behind it. Uncertainty. The first crack. And then came the first illusion. Later that night, she walked into the kitchen while I was rinsing my plate. She touched my shoulder lightly, like we were a couple in a commercial. "Hey," she said, softer. "About last night, I didn't mean it the way it came out." I kept rinsing. "How did it come out?" I asked. She exhaled, annoyed that I didn't jump into her arms. "Like rude, I guess." "You guess," I repeated. She leaned against the counter, voice sweetened. "Can we just reset? I don't like the vibe today." I dried my hands and turned to face her fully. "Reset requires a different pattern," I said. "Not different wording." Her smile tightened. "You're really committed to this." "I'm committed to respect," I replied. "If that changes the vibe, that's the point." She watched me for a long second, then nodded like she accepted it. But as she walked away, she said, almost under her breath, "You're making this so much bigger than it needs to be." And that's when I knew her apology wasn't about me. It was about restoring her comfort. A couple nights later, we went to her brother Ryan's house for a family dinner. Ryan was the kind of guy who talked with his whole body, always clapping people on the shoulder, always loud, always trying to keep things light. His wife Lauren ran the evening like a general. Kids fed, plates moving, conversation flowing. Their dining room was chaos in the normal way. Kids darting around, someone dropping a spoon, Ryan telling a story too long. Mallory walked in like she owned the room. She slid her arm through mine and smiled at everyone like we were perfect. That public polish, that image. Halfway through dinner, she started. So Daniel's been having his little wellness era, she said, laughing. Spot A's face stuff. Pretty soon he's going to ask us all to whisper and drink cucumber water. A couple of her cousins chuckled politely. Mallory leaned into it, eyes bright. It's like a midlife crisis, but softer. Ryan glanced at me, then at her. Lauren's smile faded a fraction. I took a sip of water and set the glass down. Relaxing is easier, I said evenly, when the person across from you spends less time living on their phone and more time living in the room. The table went quiet for half a second. Then Lauren laughed, quick, surprised. Oh my God, Lauren said, shaking her head. He got you. Ryan barked out a laugh. Finally, he said, pointing at me. I've been waiting for you to say something like that. Mallory's smile froze. Her eyes flicked around, looking for backup. Ryan kept going because Ryan loved momentum. Mal, you do that thing where you poke and then act shocked when somebody pokes back. Lauren nodded, matter of fact. Yeah, it's not cute. It's exhausting. Mallory's face tightened. She forced a laugh. Okay, wow. So it's group therapy night. I didn't pile on. I didn't need to. The room had already done something important. It refused to laugh with her. That was my initiative on her turf, calm, clean, and public. No jitting, just a boundary with witnesses. On the drive home, Mallory stared out the window like she was counting streetlights. You embarrassed me, she said finally. I kept my eyes on the road. You tried to use me as a prop, I replied. Props don't talk back. Os buns do. She let out a short, bitter laugh. You're enjoying this. I'm enjoying air, I said. It's been a while. She turned toward me, voice sharp. So now you're some kind of tough guy? Ich glänzte her. No, I said. I'm just not volunteering for disrespect anymore. At home, she went straight to the bedroom and shut the door. Not slammed, just closed like a statement. And that was the next shift, colder, quieter, more controlled. She wasn't going to win with jokes, so she moved to control. The next Friday, I told her I was meeting my friend Tyler after work. Tyler's been my friend since before Mallory. He's blunt, always dressed like he just walked out of a hardware store, even when he's in a nice restaurant. He doesn't process feelings. He processes facts. Mallory didn't ask how my day was. She didn't ask if I needed anything. She asked, where exactly? Out, I said, putting on my watch. To where? Her tone had that interview edge. I grabbed my keys. Rooftop lounge downtown. She laughed like it was ridiculous. In your age? For what? You think some young girl's gonna look at you? I paused at the door and looked at her, letting her words sit in the room like trash she'd thrown. I'm not auditioning, I said. I'm breeding. She crossed her arms. You're acting suspicious. I'm acting free, I replied. Different thing. You're not going to tell me who you're with. I already did, I said. Tyler. She narrowed her eyes. And if I call Tyler? I smiled once, small and tired. Call whoever you want, I said. I'm not on parole. I left before she could build a bigger cage out of questions. The rooftop lounge was normal. Adults. Conversation. City lights. Tyler and I sat at a table with a view of the river. No loud music, no nonsense. He took one look at me and said, You look like a guy who finally stopped lying to himself. I laughed quietly. Yeah, I said. It's a full-time job, apparently. We talked about work, about life, about small stuff that felt big because it wasn't poisoned. And then a woman at the next table leaned over. Sorry, she said, friendly. Is that seat taken? She was confident in a calm way. Not loud, not performative, just present. Her name was Nora. She was a few years younger than me, maybe late 30s, but she carried herself like someone who'd already learned what she would and wouldn't tolerate. Tyler raised his eyebrows at me like, see? Then stood up. I'm gonna grab another water, he said, and walked off with a grin. Nora smiled. Your friend just abandoned you. He thinks he's funny, I said. She sat for a minute. We talked, easy and normal. Not a show. No lines. Just two adults. Before she left, she slid her number across the table. If you ever want to talk again, she said, text me. No pressure. No game. I tucked it into my pocket and felt something strange. Relief. Not because I won anything, because I remembered what normal felt like. When I got home, every light in the house was on. Mallory was pacing, phone in hand, like she'd been rehearsing. She turned the second I walked in. Who was she? I blinked. Hello to you too. Don't play stupid, she snapped. You were out there flirting, weren't you? Trying to prove something? I set my keys down slowly. I was out, I said. That's all. She stepped closer. You think you're suddenly interesting? You think you're some wise guy now? I looked at her calm. This isn't about interesting, I said. It's about respect. She scoffed. Respect. She laughed, but it sounded thin. I haven't respected you in a long time, Daniel. The room went quiet. She kept talking, because once she started, she couldn't stop. You got boring, she said. Predictable. Always trying to be good. You stopped challenging me. You stopped being, I don't know, worth it. There it was. Not a mistake. A confession. I nodded slowly. So your model is, I said, I prove myself constantly, or you treat me like furniture. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God. I leaned a hip against the counter. No, I said, this is good. This is honest. You're telling me you need me on a treadmill. Her mouth tightened. Whatever. Go to bed. I didn't argue. I went upstairs, took a shower, and slept like a man who'd finally stopped negotiating with a wall. The next day, I was reorganizing the closet. Not dramatic, just practical. I was clearing space, tossing old hangers, making it clean. That's when I found them. A pair of expensive men's watches, heavy, polished, tucked behind a stack of scarves on her shelf. Not mine, not Tyler's, not any guy I knew. I held them in my palm and felt my mind switch modes. Not rage, not sadness, just facts. I didn't confront her. I didn't hold them up like some courtroom moment. I put them back exactly where they were and walked out of the room like nothing happened. That Monday and Tuesday, I worked from home. I set up my laptop at the dining table, answered emails, took calls, acted normal. Mallory left like she always did, a kiss in the air that never landed. Around 12:40, the doorbell camera pinged. A man walked up, confident. Same bill both days. Same timing. Mallory opened the door with a smile that didn't belong to a delivery guy. She stepped back and let him in. On the third day, the door wasn't even fully closed behind him. He walked in like he'd done it before, like he knew the house. I watched the footage with my face still. My coffee sat untouched. The sound in the video was muted, but I didn't need it. My home wasn't a home. It was a schedule. That night, Mallory chatted about nothing. Work gossip, traffic, like she was reading a normal wife script. I nodded at the right times. I didn't accuse. I didn't ask. I planned. I moved a chunk of my money into an account she couldn't touch. I changed a couple passwords. I booked a short-term rental across town under my name, quiet and clean. I packed a duffel with essentials and left it in my trunk. I also texted Nora. Not a flirt, not a rescue mission, just a simple message. Want to grab dinner tomorrow? She replied, sure. Downtown? I said, yeah. The next evening, Nora and I sat at a small table outside a restaurant. Warm air, passing cars, normal life. She didn't ask me to perform. She didn't test me. She just talked like an adult. Halfway through, I did one thing on purpose. I posted a story. Just a table, 2 glasses of water, and her hand resting near mine. No face. No thug. Nothing dramatic. A lever, not a show. When I got home, Mallory was already waiting. This time, she didn't pretend to be calm. What the hell is that? She demanded, phone in hand. Who is that woman? You posted that on purpose. I nodded once. Yeah, I said. On purpose. Her eyes widened, rage and panic mixing. So you're doing this now? You're trying to make me look stupid. I set my keys down and looked at her like she was a business problem. You're not asking what happened to us, I said. You're asking who saw what. She opened her mouth, then snapped. Because you're humiliating me. I tilted my head. Funny, I said. You didn't mind humiliation when you were handing it out. She stepped closer. You're not innocent, Daniel. I'm not claiming innocent, I said. I'm claiming done. She scoffed, tried to flip the script. So you're the same now. I'll let a beat pass. I know everything, I said evenly. The watches, the camera, the guy who comes here in the middle of the day. I watched you open the door like it was normal. Her face changed fast. The anger tried to stay, but it got shaky around the edges. You were cold, she snapped. You shut me out. You started acting weird. You. I cut her off with a small shake of my head. No, I said. You don't get to rewrite it. You didn't have a rough patch. You invited someone into our house. She stared at me, breathing hard, like she was searching for the right performance. Tears, maybe. Softness. Anything. But didn't come. What came was bargaining. Okay, she said slowly. So what do you want? You want me to stop talking to him? You want me to. I laughed once quiet. Hear yourself? I said. You're negotiating like I'm asking for a better deal. Her voice sharpened. So what, you're leaving? Over this? I nodded. Yes. She took a step back like the floor moved. You can't just. We're married. I picked up the duffel from behind the entry bench. I'd placed it there earlier without her noticing. Initiativa. Quiet. Already done. I can, I said. And I am. That was the kill turn. Not the watches. Not the video. Her response. No accountability. Just control and bargaining. Mallory's voice rose. Where are you going? Somewhere I'm not treated like furniture, I replied. She tried the second illusion, then bigger, louder, more desperate. Daniel, wait, she said, suddenly soft, stepping in front of the door. Okay, I messed up. I've been awful. I've been stressed. I can fix it. We can fix it. I'll do whatever you want. She reached for my arm like we were in a movie. I stepped back calmly, no dramatic shove, just distance. You're not fixing me, I said. You're fixing the consequences. Her eyes got wet. Please. I looked at her, steady. You didn't lose respect by accident, I said. You used it like a weapon. And now you want me to hand you the handle back. She swallowed. So that's it. I opened the door. That's it. She followed me onto the porch, voice cracking. You're really going to throw this away? I turned to her one last time. The air was warm and still, neighbors' porch lights glowing down the street like nothing in the world mattered. I'm not throwing anything away, I said. I'm putting it where it belongs. I got in my car and drove off. Over the next week, I moved fast and clean. I didn't argue. I didn't do long talks. I switched my direct deposit. I forwarded my mail. I pulled my personal documents. I took my tools and my things. I didn't take the TV. I didn't take the couch. I took my life. Mallory sent messages in waves. Angry. Sweet. Angry again. She tried to bait me into fights, then tried to lure me into one last conversation. I gave her one sentence, once. Communication requires respect. You chose something else. Then I stopped. A month later, my place was set up. Simple. Quiet. My schedule felt like mine again. Tyler came over one Saturday, looked around, nodded. This is you, he said. Not the other thing. I smiled. Yeah, I said. I forgot what that felt like. Nora and I kept talking. Slow. Normal. No chows. The kind of connection that doesn't need an audience. As for Mallory, people stopped laughing at her jokes when I wasn't there to absorb them. Her social circle got quieter around her. Ryan didn't invite her to every dinner. Lauren stopped texting back fast. Even Kira, from what I heard, kept a polite distance. Mallory didn't lose me because I posted a story. She lost me because she treated respect like a currency she controlled. And once I stopped paying, the whole system collapsed. Here's the lesson, plain and useful. First, the moment disrespect goes public, it's not a joke. It's a test. It's someone checking whether they can lower you in front of witnesses and still keep full access to you afterward. If you smile and swallow it, you're not being mature. You're training them. Second, boundaries that don't change access are just speeches. The turning point for me wasn't a dramatic confrontation. It was me changing the rules. I stopped providing comfort automatically, stopped explaining myself like I needed permission, and stopped letting her use me as a social prop. Every time she pushed, I responded with a real adjustment, time, attention, plans, space. Third, don't get trapped in endless conversations with someone who only wants control over the story. When the facts showed up, Mallory didn't take responsibility. She negotiated. She blamed. She tried to manage the optics. If I'd stayed to talk it out, I would have been arguing with a script designed to keep me in place. The mistake would have been begging for warmth from someone who needed me small. The smarter move was the quiet one. See it, name it once, then act. Respect beats routine. Peace beats performance. And if someone needs you desperate to feel powerful, the most masculine thing you can do is remove yourself from the game entirely.